Hello and welcome, Skylords, to the Masters of the Forge. In this series, we talk to members of the Skylords Reborn team about their duties, how they view the project, and what it's like to work on the game. If you want further details on the how and why of this series, check the article of the first episode on the forums. As every time, we will structure the stream into several parts, going over our guest's relation to Battleforge, Battleforge, his function in the team, his outlook on the project, and of course, pre-submitted questions and chat questions. My guest today is RadicalX, not only faction designer in the Skylords Reborn team, but also famous for his displays of skill as a player in an almost Chuck Norris of Battleforge-like quality. Besides being undisputed as the #1 PvP player, he holds loads of PvE speedrunning records with some astounding gaps to other pro players, and also appears regularly in the top of the contests. In his function in the Skylords Reborn team as faction designer, he is one of the few who shaped the future of the game experience, be it with balance changes or the decision on the introduction of new cards that are designed to fill missing parts in the factions. Welcome to the stream, RadicalX.
Well, yeah, hello there, and thank you for this wonderful introduction. I'm really glad that you invited me to be part of the stream today, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Will we get going instantly? Because I think this stream will take a while.
I mean, yeah, sure, let's just start right away.
Let's jump in. And the first part we always talk about is your real-life context. What country do you live in? Do you live in a town or in the countryside? Where do you live?
I do live in Lübeck. That's a town in northern Germany. And yeah, it's pretty close to the beach, so fairly nice location, I guess.
That must be quite the cold beach in the North Sea.
I mean, it's the East Sea, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's in the summer. It's pretty warm, I guess.
How many minutes from where do you sit now to the beach?
I guess 30 minutes. Yeah, probably.
30 minutes by foot or by car?
By car.
Okay. Well, that's still a way to go.
A little bit less than that, actually.
I was already imagining you at the coastal cottage with looking out at the sea.
With a laptop in my hands, playing BattleForge.
Yeah, trashing everyone, waving at the girls, and then killing us all. Okay, how old are you?
I am 26 years old.
Okay, and how long are you inside the Skylords team?
Well, that's actually a very good question. I think about 2 years, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I'm not too sure, because like the progression when I joined the Skylords team was more or less like fluent, because I've been part of the PvP task force before that, and yeah, kind of involved into all this stuff in regards to the things that I do now.
Okay, and what's your field of occupation? What do you do for a living?
I'm currently working on my master thesis I'm studying psychology, and yeah, almost done with it. And yeah, not sure actually what I'm going to do afterwards. Maybe looking for a PhD position, maybe.
You know what they say about people who study psychology?
I'm not sure what you mean, but go ahead.
They say that they are mainly that the most people who are studying psychology are there because of their own problems.
Oh yeah, no, I heard about that one. It's actually quite a funny one.
I mean, it must not fit to you personally, but do you have some experience relating to that?
I mean, I guess partially. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is actually the main thing, but it can happen for sure.
Okay. That's the part about your real life. Let's switch to BattleForge. When did you first play BattleForge? Was it back in the day, the original EA BattleForge, or was it Skylords Reborn?
No, I actually started playing in 2009. So that was like pretty long ago. And at this time I actually was 12 years old, so really young. And it was pretty much the first game that I actually started playing for real. Because it was pretty popular in my class at school back then. And yeah, my friends kind of convinced me to play it because it was free to play. And yeah, at this point, I really enjoyed playing it.
So you didn't buy it, but you joined when it got free to play?
No, I didn't buy it. Actually, at the start, I did not spend any money on the game. I mostly played the PvE content back then. And yeah, I think at a later point in time when I really started enjoying the game, getting into it, it was like at some point when when it was my birthday and I invited all my friends, like we also usually did like some small gifts and so on. And I just literally told everyone to just send me this 10 euro BattleForge point box. And that was pretty much all of the points that I had at this point. And yeah, from that, I could buy everything I needed.
That sounds hilarious.
It worked out pretty well, actually.
I was one of those who tried. I also do this in other games. If there is a free-to-play mode where you can unlock everything in some kind of way, even if it's very tedious, I still stay on the free-to-play front as long as I can, as long as it's possible, going to extreme lengths to not spend any real money.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. But yeah, at some point, I just couldn't progress with what I wanted to do because I wanted to get into PvP. I wanted to play the stuff with the cards and so on, and I wasn't very good at managing like the markets with the small income that you got for free at that point in time. I mean, the system where you got like this daily BattleForge point back then wasn't even introduced when I played the game, so it was really hard to get cards without having the experience of how to use the market for that.
But that also leads to the first pre-submitted question. What was PvP like back then in the EA days?
I think it was fairly popular during these days. I think the biggest difference to Skylords Reborn is probably that we also had a functioning 2 versus 2 scene, which was pretty fun to play and also really helpful to get into the game, which is also how I pretty much started with PvP when I just joined a little bit for fun rounds with friends. 2v2 was a lot less punishing, I guess, than going into this 1 versus 1 battle. And I think it was a pretty fun experience overall. There were various tournaments and at the forums that were announced every now and then, and yeah, it was genuinely fun to play.
And how broken was it?
I started playing PvP a little bit later on. When I started playing the game, I was mainly into PvE. So when I got in touch with PvP, I mostly saw the posts at the forums where people were like complaining about the super broken cards and stuff. But I was like, yeah, I'm not playing this. It's fine for me. And I mean, in the original times, there were like super broken things, but everyone was still figuring out how to play the game properly. And at this point in time, certain things were allowed to be a little bit more broken, I guess, than they are right now. But yeah, it was very, very tough to play certain decks and matchups, I guess.
Okay. And then the game became unavailable. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, that was pretty sad actually. That was like 2013. Because I really enjoyed playing this game. It was my favorite game, and up to this day, it still is my favorite game. So, seeing this being gone entirely was really sad. I mean, you kind of saw it coming over time because it was like people were always hoping for this Amii faction release, but with each patch, it seemed like the content, the amount of content that was there decreased, the activity from the from the devs was not that high towards the end, and especially with Phenomic kind of not being able to, and Phenomic closed entirely, so they were not being able to launch this game anymore, and then it went like to EA, and at that point it was kind of clear that it wouldn't last for too long. Especially, they also decreased like the worthiness of the BattleForge points. I think you could get like for 10 euros, you got like 10,000 points or something like this at a certain point in time. So there was like a very, very strong inflation. And yeah, that was a very worrying trend, I guess. But yeah, it was just super sad that you were just not even able to play the game offline or something.
But I have, from listening to you, I have the impression before it really shut down, you already had the impression this is dying.
Yeah, I did. Especially, I think, especially when they did the price inflation, I was like, yeah, something is not going well.
And then some years passed, and when did you learn about Skylords Reborn?
That's a very good question. If I'm not mistaken, I was in it was like a Skype group that we had from playing PvP back then. There were various players in there, and I wasn't really active there. I just saw a random message about people trying to revive the game, and it was just a very, very interesting thought to just play BattleForge again at some point in time. And yeah, there were also projects before the initial, like back then it was like BattleForge Reborn, but the name got changed later on. And there were other projects before that looked a lot less promising. But when I joined the general idea of this project, I was actually kind of interested and was like, yeah, well, maybe this could work out in the end. It looked a little bit more serious than the previous attempts, so I would just stick around. And yeah, even back then it was kind of fun to just see all the other people in the forums talking about the game, about the strategies and all that stuff. They were just very good memories for me, and I really enjoyed it.
I don't think I have to ask you what game mode do you like the most, or is that a wrong impression?
Well, yeah, of course, PvP is my favorite game mode, and yeah, I just enjoyed it for so much. But I also really like to play PvE, all sorts of that content. I mean, that's how I started the game initially, and like I played the game very casually for the probably first 6 months, I guess, maybe 12. Before I really started getting into playing more competitively. And yeah, this kind of is something that I still do every now and then. Just playing a little bit of relaxed PvE is something that I really enjoy. And yeah, also the speedrun competition is something that I started to play later on. Like this is something that I only did in Skylords.
I have the feeling like maybe it was 6 months or maybe 9 months ago. Suddenly you started to appear in the speedrunning more and more and more.
Yeah, I guess that was mostly where I switched to playing the campaign maps. Before that, I played lots of RPVE, like all sorts of this, like trying very different decks, trying all the strategies cards and see how they could work, could function. Also, sometimes there was something I really tried when I assisted during certain design updates and stuff, that I just played all the factions on the test server over and over and try to get an impression how they could work, how they could function, what is missing to make them actually good. And yeah, I really enjoyed playing RPV for a pretty long time for that reason. It was really, really interesting to just theory crowd all the strategies. And yeah, CPVE is like, also campaign PvE is something that I just switched on to later on.
You're helping me a lot with my questions here. It's almost like you know what's up next. Because the next question is, what faction do you like the most and why?
So yeah, pretty tough question actually, because from a PvP perspective, I just really love the Amii faction. Like back then it was just Shadow Nature. And yeah, when I was learning PvP, there was a player, I don't know if anyone remembers him, he's called Elendil, one of the best players, maybe the best players at a certain time in the game. and he was playing lots of Shadow Nature, which was considered a very weak deck, and he was just crushing with this deck and was like beating the meta decks like Lost Souls back then. There was considered a very tough matchup, but he had a very good understanding of the game. That was pretty much ahead of his time at that point, and something that was super impressive. And actually, the inspiration for me to also start playing this deck in PvP more. Yeah, it was really something I also enjoyed playing, and yeah, that's where I probably would go with Shadow Nature for the PvP part. And PvE is kind of tough, actually. PvE is the tougher one because I played so many different decks, and I guess I played bandits the most out of all of them. But I'm not.
It doesn't mean it's the most fun or the coolest or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it is really fun. Let me think about this for a short moment.
I will ask you later again if I don't forget. And we also have another pre-submitted question which falls into this category. What's your favorite campaign map?
My favorite campaign map in terms of what I enjoy the most,
yes.
Okay, so
or maybe maybe we make two questions: which one you enjoy the most, and which one you think is the best designed one.
Okay, so the campaign map I do enjoy the most is Behind Enemy Lines. That is probably my favorite campaign map. Because just from the pacing, I really liked this back then it was like only played with Night Guard. Nowadays you can play it with other strategies, which is also why I think it was not the best designed one, because it was pretty much condensed to this one strategy, where you only had little energy income, so you were pretty much reliant on those swaps to have a good experience on that map. But I really enjoyed that map in particular, and because it felt really challenging when they released it, and yeah, just something I really played a lot more than the other maps. In terms of what I think is the best design one, that's also a pretty tough question. I generally think
on the best designed one, I will vote for Slave Master.
Slave Master.
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting one. But I can see why. Yeah, I mean, Slave Master.
What would you choose?
Pretty good parts. I think in terms of design, it's either I think it's either Crusade or Blight for me, because I think
Blight really.
These have very interesting design. Yeah, I think Blight was pretty good in terms of how they made the map challenging in a very interesting way and gave players strategic decisions in the early game that really impacted how they would progress throughout the map.
KotH wants to know what's your favorite card in PvP.
My favorite card in PvP. The one I really enjoyed playing the most, the card is actually Ashborn Pyro. I think it's a great card in terms of design. I think it's a very, from the visuals, I think it's a very cool card, and yeah, something I really enjoyed using whenever I get the chance to do it.
I'm surprised that you pick a tier 3 card.
Well, maybe that's because my tendency back then, when I started playing, I played lots of like Pure Shadow and Lost Souls. So those decks were very scaling heavy, and especially Lost Souls at this time. There was the deck where you played like Timeless One, Ashborn Pyro, and then played for full control. It's still viable today, but back then it was just such a dominant tier 3 to play. And yeah, when I started getting into PvP more competitively, that is the deck I enjoyed the most.
So we switch over to BattleForge. Radical and I communicated a bit before the stream, and we settled for the playing content on something very special. Would you be so kind and explain what we will play today?
Yeah, sure. So the idea was that we would play some PvP matches today, considering in the previous talks we just saw PvE content, and oh, you just invited me already. And yeah, to make it a little bit more spicy, we will just play a normal rounds of PvP, and I will play a bandit stack for this one. And after each round, assuming I win the game,
you might.
You get to ban 3 cards. Like I guess it's I don't know how you want to handle it. I guess it's fair if you say like 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 1 tier 3.
No, you can choose as you. We want to see your mind at work, so you can choose whatever you like.
Okay, so either way, like there are card bans, and I think that the chat can also suggest card bans that I have to like take out each round. So I have to adjust my deck continuously with less cards available to the faction, and see how long I can win these games.
I think you will last for a while, since my PvP skill is pretty low, but I think that's part of the fun of it.
Well, let's see how it goes.
I mean, I did play some PvP the last months, so I hope I don't embarrass myself.
I mean, yeah, I see you already got the gold rank, which is pretty good. So
yeah, that's pretty new for me. But of course, we just keep playing, and I will keep asking questions, so you have to put your mind to the answers too.
So I'm distracted, I see.
Yes. Oh no, you don't take a well.
No, I don't.
So we can agree that you're a pretty good player. But I think it's something special to be at the top. Oh, where are those Sunstriders coming from? Oh no! What is it like to be at the top of a game?
I mean, I guess it's kind of great to be at the top. Like especially in the early rounds of Skylords Reborn, there were lots of tournaments that were like reasonably competitive and really fun to play. And winning those was just extremely satisfying. I'll be honest with that.
Yeah, but I always hear a lot of talk about Radical is the best, and there are prizes set out. If you can beat Radical, you get some extra prize or something like that. I mean, in some way, it must feel weird too, to be always praised like that.
It sometimes does, for sure. I personally see it as an honor, to be fair. But yeah, sometimes it's also hard to do something about this. And yeah, what do I say now if you're getting praised like this in the game? But yeah, I guess I'm happy with that. It's just it's an honor for me.
Do you wish for more? Do you wish for more competition at that level?
I think competition is always great, right? I think the best games are these best of fives that are super competitive, going to the last game, and there's just this one decision that might change the entire game. I remember a certain tournament where I was playing against like Top Secret against it was like a super competitive best of 5, and we had like this 5th game, and I barely managed to win it. And I went into the replay afterwards to see how it was going, and I was trying to push a power from him, and he had a mortar tower there, and I thought, yeah, I can just rush this, and it worked out, and I thought that was a very good decision. But in the end, I just saw that he misplaced the activation of the mortar tower, unfortunately, which would have just changed the entire outcome of the game. And it was like super nice to see how close this game was. And yeah, having such a highly competitive environment is really great and something I enjoy the most. about PvP.
How would it make you feel if, like, either in speedrunning or in PvP, if someone, let's say 3 new players join and they take all your fame away and they take all your speedrun records, how would it make you feel? If they take away everything, they're better in everything.
Like everything. Okay. I think it would be quite an incentive for me to try to get better. And really work on that part. Because at that point in time, there's also something I can learn about the game. So I would really try to see this as a big chance for me to get better in the end.
So let's ban some cards. I'm hoping for suggestions from the chat. I have my own ideas in mind.
Yeah, let's just see what the chat says, and then we can just do.
Especially hope for suggestions from KotH because he knows what would hurt you the most. But while we wait a bit, I just come to the next one. I have another pre-submitted question, which is how is your performance in other games that are far away from real-time strategies? Let's say, like, how would you perform in a shooter game or in chess or whatever?
In a shooter game, I mean, I guess chess isn't like super far away from Skylords. But let's take the shooter. I would probably perform really poorly at that because I just usually don't play them at all, and my aim is pretty bad. And yeah, that is super essential for shooters, I guess. But yeah, I'm really mostly enjoying the RTS games is something that I enjoy a lot. And probably the games that I am pretty good at. But yeah, shooter, rough.
I will start banning a tier 1 that I make it to tier 2. I would ban Sunstriders.
Yeah, okay.
And I would ban Thugs.
Okay.
And I would ban Dark Elf Assassins.
All right. So let me just replace them, and then we go again.
Yeah. Can you talk and replace?
Sorry?
Can you talk at the same time? Because I would ask the next question.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm just looking for
the next question would be: how much time do you invest in something like making a new speedrunning record, like a single player map? Let's take us the Soul Tree as an example. I was looking at it and I saw you have a almost 2-minute gap about the next player. How much time did you invest on this?
Soul Tree? Dude, 2 minutes? I think it was just a few seconds, no?
No, I can check again. Maybe
maybe it was just the monthly one. Soul Tree was like 9 minutes. Like the all-time on the like post reset was 9:23, if I'm not mistaken, and before the letter reset it was like 9:19, and I was like 9:15.
True. Yeah, let's take a average map. You say you put your mind. Now I want to.
Yeah, I guess on average 3 days. But to be fair, that is something that is just long-term payoff because I invested so much time learning different aspects of the game that it's just a lot of things are just natural in terms of what is required to do in order to perform reasonably well at a certain map. And there's also existing knowledge about speedruns that can be used to have like a head start right into the map, which makes it a lot faster.
Yeah, but how much do you need? Do you need in hours, not in how many days, but do you invest 3 hours, 10 hours, 100 hours? How much does it take to make a new record?
On average, I would say probably 7 to 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But this like really varies depending on the map. I think that is mostly
Yeah,
the campaign content itself. And yeah, that's probably the average time. Some take longer, some are kind of easier.
I ask this because that's fascinating to me, that some players who are also, let's call them veterans. Let's say we have pro players, we have veterans, and we have some. When a veteran does a contest, or when a veteran does try to beat a record, they will invest dozens and dozens and dozens of hours, and I'm kind of fascinated how fast you do those things.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I tried to explain earlier. To be fair, it's not like they're just saying play 7 hours and you get the record and stuff, but it's more about I played the game for so long that I have lots of pre-existing knowledge about certain aspects of the map or card interactions that can be used. That makes it a lot easier for me to get a strategy together and also execute it in the long run.
Okay. Ready up?
Yeah, sure.
I already see what it is, the striker or whatever this is.
Yeah, exactly. I had to replace a few T1 cards, so I can keep competitive.
Yeah. Now you what a counter? What counter is a striker?
Strikers are M counters.
But that wasn't the strike. What's the name of the tier 1 unit? Is it striker?
One? No, it's strikers.
Oh, it's striker. It's an M counter. Okay, all right. You still don't take a well. Damn
it. Maybe I will at some point in time.
I mean, I think it's a unwritten rule that you don't hold back, right?
I really don't. I'll play completely seriously.
Yeah, that would be. Let's try to be greedy, Should we?
I mean, I don't have Sunstriders, so I probably have to accept this.
Yeah, go away and take your own well.
I will.
So the next question would be: speedrunners in BattleForge are very often about map secrets. I have the impression you are relatively open with this stuff. What are your thoughts about secrecy and speedrunning?
I mean, I can understand that people don't really want to share strategies because in a lot of occasions they work a lot to build them up, and there's like a lot of time invested into practicing, improving, and so on. Yeah, once you share it, it's often not super hard to get a similar result by just executing it. At least it's a shortened process, and I guess it depends from map to map, but sometimes it's just about certain tricks that you need to know to really improve your time. And I don't have any problems with sharing that, because I think it's just interesting to see how far a certain map can be pushed overall. And yeah, it's not just about like defending the record time or something for me. So I don't really need to do it, but I could understand people who are who prefer to keep things a little bit more secretly.
God damn it. But do you agree that taking the fast one out was a good idea so they don't run away?
I mean, yeah, fast one is kind of decent. You just need to be careful that I can charge and interrupt them right away.
Yeah, so. I was pretty hurting. Yeah, you go +1 and I go tier 2. That's the plan. That's how we do it.
Reasonable.
About that secrecy stuff. I was looking at some videos in Trackmania, and in Trackmania, if you do a good time, all replays, and they have quite a similar system. All replays are open. Would you prefer a system like that for BattleForge?
I guess I'm not sure how this actually affects the runs itself. Could be a consideration. I probably would say it's kind of fine to have a certain replay database that people could choose to upload their runs to. So
no, I'm really talking about
choice,
forced. I'm really talking about
forced.
Like you have the rankings and you right click the name of the run and you look at show replay and you see the run. Because in Trackmania, it's like the people look at this and they improve upon that, and that is quite healthy, I think, for a speedrunning community.
I think, yeah, in some sense, I can see the point for that. It's a very interesting idea overall. Because at some point in time, if you just have a certain amount of veteran groups grinding for the records, they will just acquire, at some point, because I mean, BattleForge is like 10 years old, they acquired a really large amount of knowledge. And for people who really want to join that, it can be pretty rough if you don't have all that experience, which is also a reason why I would like to share certain runs that I played and so on. Actually planned on also covering them openly at some point. I just didn't find the time to do it yet, but the plan is there. But yeah, I guess I would still probably prefer it to be something that people aren't forced into, because I'm not sure how these certain runs would look like if you take the strategy part away, because that is the part that is kind of interesting about BattleForge. It's like building up this strategy that will give you the edge in the end, and not necessarily the micro execution. So I'm not really sure how I would see it to be a forced sharing.
What I gathered from Trackmania is that then you have a split between people who are, let's say, creative minds who find out the strategies, and people who are executors who can just perform better.
I see.
But the executor credits the one who came up with the strategy.
I see. Okay, so that's how it works.
I survived a bit. I'm happy.
Yeah, you're doing good. But yeah, I could definitely see how something like this would work, and also definitely add certain healthy components to the way it ends up. Definitely interesting.
So, how do you feel about the number of PvP players? I mean, as far as I get it, you invested loads of time to make all this work and to balance all this thing out. But right now, it's still like that. Damn it! It's still like that some people just try to avoid top players by putting them on the friend list, and that's not, I think, the most healthy interaction we have right now. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we will always have this issue about, the low player count in total. That kind of makes it hard to produce very fair matchmaking. Unfortunately, this is something we cannot really avoid so easily. Yeah, we will try to make the best out of it and see how we can create the best experience for the players that we have here in the game, and yeah, work with what you can do.
Yeah, but you didn't ask her the question. I asked you how does it make you feel?
How does it make me feel?
Yes, you're investing, like other Skylords in the team, you're investing loads of time.
I mean, sure, but I think I really do this because I enjoy the game, and I just want to see it succeed as much as possible. And yeah, I don't have bad feelings towards that. I think I just hope to make sure that people can enjoy the game as much as possible. And of course, I would be very happy if we at some point get a bigger player base, which would drastically increase the quality of games that people would have. Like that's something that I would always love to see, but I'm not necessarily unhappy with the state of the game as it is right now.
Yeah, I'm following all those changes, of course, too, and I feel like at this point in time, the game has less players than it should have. You agree on that?
Yeah, I agree on that. And I really wish we would have like a certain marketing budget to roll out, and gather new players and make sure the game has a very sustained player base, which increasingly improves the quality of it.
So here comes the question again. What cards should we ban? That's for the chat. And the question... Oh, okay. KotH already helps. And the question for you is, that was also pre-submitted by someone. What's your favorite PvP memory when playing, of course?
My favorite PvP memory. I guess I would go back to the A times, which was the one. I think there were like tournaments, like 2 tournaments that I won that kind of make me happy. One of them was like the first tournament that I ever won. It was just a very small event. It was like a King of the Hill event, and it was just one player is there and needs to beat 5 other contestants who are just playing, and if one of them beats them, he's like the new King of the Hill, and then he has to play the other players, and the one who stands at the top at the end is winning the tournament. And yeah, that was kind of the first tournament that I got to win by getting a very cheesy win against one of the top players at the time, and it was just pretty cool memory for me that I always kept with me. And yeah, also there was another tournament later on which was like a tournament that I won that was really highly competitive with lots of good players in there. That all of them were like contention to be really, really strong, and I kind of won that convincingly. That was also like the first tournament where I really had that experience, and that was really, really cool back then. Those were kind of my favorite.
Sounds
moments.
like that was the moment you felt like now I'm really good in this game.
Yeah, pretty much that. It was like the first one was probably, yeah, I guess there's potential, and the second one was kind of it works out pretty well right now.
I'm dabbling in psychology as well, but it sounded a bit like validation.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's so right to get to get stuff done, to invest time, and then you earn the fruits. That is a special moment.
Yeah, sure.
So Dachi wanted to know something. Dachi wants to know what your opinion is on Smurfs. So for those who don't know, Smurfs are secondary characters. Especially in PvP, we see this here and there that some old player joins with a new account and bashes his way up the ladder.
I guess it's really about how you see smurfing. I think this is the very essential part of it. If you use this to just try to get to beat players that are worse than you due to abusing the matchmaking system, I don't think it's a good thing at all. I think on the other hand, though, it could be really helpful to have smurfs to improve at certain aspects of the game, because it removes a certain amount of pressure to play without having to play on your main account and stuff, to try out new things. Because back then, when I played during A time, smurfs were allowed, which is something that is not the case in Skylords Reborn, simply because of how the economy system worked and how usable it would be. Obviously, I mean that's kind of understandable. But back then, I had I just made an account for every single deck in the game, and I tried to see how far I can go with each of those. And that was something that really helped me improve as a player, and also something that was kind of good to have back then, because during A times we had a time where Lost Souls and Pure Fire made up more than 60% of the player base in terms of what people would main in the top 50 or maybe top 100. I'm not sure. There once was a post where people were actually counting the main decks of people, and it was like Lost Souls and Pure Fire all the way. And yeah, getting to see different decks at that point in time was a really refreshing experience. And that is something that's the smurfing system kind of contributed to. So I think if you kind of had a system where you don't have this issue, like you're getting matched with players that are like way worse than you, if you go into a smurf system, it could be good. But yeah, obviously not a great thing if you just use it to beat weaker players.
So here's the last question. First, I'm banning strikers just for the lores. You took them and I'm taking them away. That's funny. And I'm also, because KotH suggested it, I'm banning Eruption and Ravage also.
Oh, Eruption. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Ravage. And the next question is very simple. You can do that on the side. My computer mouse has a fancy feature that changes the resolution. Even with a hotkey feature, there's a lot of pro gamer stuff out there to buy. Do you think having the right tools, like keyboard, mouse, etc., makes any difference in performance, or is it as long as the stuff isn't defunct, does it matter? The gear
itself, I guess if you know how to use it, utilize it, you can get certain advantages, but these advantages are very small. I guess you definitely need to use hotkeys for better unit control at some point in time if you want to play at a very competitive level. But I think you can just do this with a normal mouse and a normal keyboard. Like, I don't really see the advantage of investing lots of money into gear. Because you could just spend your time and try to improve at other aspects of the game, which would be way more efficient in comparison.
That was the answer I was hoping for. I mean, if it's broken, you should replace it, but I also think it doesn't matter very much.
I mean, I think when I started and I ended up hitting rank 1 for the first time in the PvP ladder, I was playing like with a mouse for like 99% of the time. I was almost not using hotkeys at the start. That is something I just started doing later on. And it still worked. So it's definitely not mandatory.
Imaka wrote something long, so I have to read that while you're switching out cards.
Tier 1 is getting pretty tough right now.
Yeah, no. That was the plan. What do you think about PvP and players are almost unable to make any mistakes, small mistakes at the start, like placing a wrong eruption? I got from KotH the tip I should start without eruption for a while because erupting so badly. What do you think about how punishing the game is?
I think, yeah, it's kind of tough because unlike other RTS games, you don't have this build-up phase where you invest your time totally into building up in a strong economy or something. You just go right into the center of a map and fight, which can make games extremely fast-paced. And at certain point in times, you can lose games for making a single mistake early on, which is something that is probably not ideal. But I think the big issue with that is the matchmaking part, and something that is technically resolvable by giving players better matchmaking overall. Because I think there are very strong defensive mechanics in this game, like the defender's advantage, like the ability of spawning undazed units around your power is extremely strong. The attempt of rushing a power is extremely risky because if you fail at doing such an aggressive punishing move, is like essentially equivalent to losing it. So it is really risky to do such things. So that's an aggressive power.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do understand the concerns that players say, okay, the game is extremely snowball heavy, and that is somewhat problematic. But I also do think that is something that is it's not resolvable from a balancing perspective, I guess.
Dang, I was hoping so badly you didn't take a fire zone.
It wasn't banned. It wasn't banned.
Yeah, I was trying. I was hoping so much that you didn't take it. Yeah, now you have to attack.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, in certain aspects, we definitely try to improve on this by buffing certain cards to that enhance defensive capabilities of decks. There are things like Wrath Blades or Thugs that are certainly efficient when you have to defend your power against an opponent from a deficit. And by making defensive mechanics stronger, that is something we can always try to buff in order to keep games less snowbally and remove the amount of strategies at the tier 1 stage that's kind of are these game-ending moves. That's how I call them right here. Oh, let me just... Okay, so...
Was that a bad eruption? It was a bad eruption.
I think so too. It was not the most ideal one, I guess. Because I think once you reach the tier 2 stage, the game states can be much more equal. Because there are more powerwells in the game, which usually makes it harder to attack, as you can spawn more undead stuff around your well. Yeah, defender's advantage is getting stronger. Building protects are starting to enter the game. And at some point, once these mechanics get too strong, it can also swing around the other way, that it gets really frustrating because you can't really convert your advantages into a victory. And then you have like these games where you play against Frost and have to go for like 20-25 minutes, or I don't know, Stonekin. There's this infamous thing where people are opting for cannon towers, or maybe the shadow deck with Church of Negation and stuff. And that on the other end is frustrating to play because regardless of what you do, at some point you can't finish the game anymore. So yeah, keeping this in a certain balance is a tough task, but I guess the way it is right now, it is somewhat fair for both oppositions because strategies exist that kind of support both playstyles.
I'm losing more badly than in the last round. That's sad. Oh Lord. What did I ban those cards for?
I guess you need to find a way to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I will keep banning tier 1 cards and will try to keep the game at tier 1. But then you will build an instant orb. That will also be bad. Majora was cheering me on, but that didn't help.
Maybe it will at some point.
We are switching to the next big section. We're coming to the Skylords Reborn team. Well, I already asked you when you did join the Skylords Reborn team, and I'm now asking why.
Okay, so I think the main reason of it was that back then, when the balance in Discord started and all that, I got voted as a community representative to take part in discussions around balancing, and later on there was the PvP task force to have a better structure, to be just more efficient with the balancing and all of that. And yeah, then we kind of had the issue that the implementation and the process itself was a little bit on hold because it's a volunteer project. Some people were just not able to invest enough time to support the game as much as they wanted to. And at that point, I just said, okay, I do have a little bit of time to do the job. And yeah, that's just how I started doing the faction design role from that point on, because I was already involved with the balancing process, and I already knew what was going on, and that kind of made it efficient in the end when I just had this particular role to push things and make sure that we could patch certain content to the game.
So it was you saw the need for
I definitely did.
Who puts in some work that you can have more progression in the game.
Yeah, I think that was it.
So I'm not banning the fire one. That's almost I'm banning the scavenger. I'm banning the wind hunter. And what also? And I'm banning. No, I take the fire one away.
Fire one. All right.
Fire one, wind hunter, scavenger. I want to see you with shitty tier 1 units. The next question would be, what are your duties now? Now you're a faction designer, and what's your job?
So I'm mainly responsible for rolling out the PvP content. So mostly making sure that we can give players new balancing changes. I'm working on new cards and like card design reworks, all that stuff. That is probably my main job, and I also help out at the PvE departments whenever necessary, with similar tasks. And yeah, apart from that, I'm also involved in playtesting, like a lot, because that is something I kind of enjoy, and something I could use to make sure that the numbers are right in the end, which is something that can go wrong if you don't have the time to actually test the changes that you're trying to launch. And yeah, the PvP task was also very helpful at that point to make sure this is progressing smoothly. It's really helpful to accelerate the progression of patching new designs into the game. And apart from that, I am also a little bit involved with the map department in terms of mostly providing feedback through testing, but I'm also somewhat responsible for the changes that are made to the RPV system. I'm heavily involved in the RPV 9.5 project that was also shown on stream last time.
So and how are the designers working together?
So we are mainly communicating through different servers, like the balancing servers, the task force, and Discord, and so on. And like the other designers, which are Wind Hunter and Hero, are also constantly providing their ideas and their views on the game, and are actively working on giving players a better overall experience. Yeah, we are in contact for most of the time. Whenever a change goes live that could affect the matter in a very strong way, I would say, we always just talk to each other and ask for opinions. Do you think it's a good idea to do this for the game? Is this the right way? Or yeah, at this part, we really need a little bit of extra work, and so on and so on.
You literally killed me with a fucking mine.
It's a great card in some situations.
I heard it when you placed it for a second, and I wasn't sure. Was that a mine? Well, we have seen the outcome of that. I keep trying.
But yeah, overall, the other designers are extremely helpful whenever I need some extra input in regards to certain changes.
You're doing it perfectly, because that's the next question. How are the how are the designers working together?
So in terms of, do you want me to be a little bit more concrete in terms of workflow or?
Yeah. Do you have meetings? Do you have what are you using to communicate? Especially if there are decisions when a card goes into that or into that direction.
Yeah, so we mostly communicate with the task force members actively when it comes down to that. We also, like, there's a lot of stuff going on through Discord where we just communicate with each other, talking about what is going to be the content that we want to prioritize for the next game and what kind of changes are we call them low-hanging fruits, things with low workload that kind of have a good impact on the game. So we can get like the most out of the resources that we have. Yeah, we're always actively communicating with each other about all these things, and sometimes also with voice calls and stuff.
But what would happen if you wouldn't agree? Would you have some, like, a meeting? And what would happen if you guys don't agree on something? Is there first question would be, does that happen often or does it happen rarely? And the second would be, are there any veto rights or what are?
I mean, it's probably, I mean, if we are disagreeing on a certain topic, we will have a longer discussion about it and try to convince each other and try to understand each other in terms of what our positions are. And it does happen. It does happen for sure, because we all have our own view on the game, and that might differ. Doesn't mean it's like better or worse, but it's very, very good to have like different perspectives on the game. And yeah, at some point, considering we are mainly three main designers, we can also get we kind of get to agree once two are in favor of doing something and one is against. It's probably doing, unless he brings up good arguments to convince one of us, it's kind of going this way or that way. It's a really productive discussion overall, I would say. And yeah.
And what tools do you use to keep overview of everything? There are like 500 cards or something. Are you going on feels, what to do next, or is there some structure to this?
We usually do communicate mostly via Discord, but we also, to have a better structure, we are using Trello. There we have boards with all the changes that are planned, with backlog discussions that we hold, and planned cards, changes, etc., etc.
And how big is the backlog?
It's pretty big, I guess. There's lots of stuff that we kind of want to do, but you know, it's a lot of work.
But I'm asking more about the design backlog. Less if it's. My impression is that the implementation is right now the bottleneck. Is there a design backlog? What comes next? What comes next? What comes next?
There certainly are ideas on that, but yeah, we usually try to do some projects. You know, it's in terms of PvP. We had the Bandits rework, we had the Twilight adjustments, we had the Pure Nature rework, and so on and so on. And this was kind of similar with PvE, where we are currently trying to release the Lost Souls changes that are supposed to improve the overall performance, because it really helps to just, you know, look at one faction and try to improve it step by step by seeing, okay, how is this faction supposed to play? How are the cards working? Are there any issues that we want to fix? And in the end, we want to get like a faction that really works in a holistic way. So that really helps with the workflow and also with prioritizing the changes that need to be done.
All right, time for bans. I think I should be able to work with the nomads. I don't think I should ban the mine. So I'm banning tier 2 stuff. Let's take away the bandit sniper.
Yeah.
The Winter Hunter already did. Let's ban the what is it called? Also have it. Rallying banner.
All right.
And Bandit Minefield.
All right.
I think the tier 1 is in a status where I can live with that. And we have 2 chat questions. When you are playing, do you count the energy of the opponent?
Yes, I try to. But I mean, it's more important to get like the idea of how much energy your opponent has during this T1 skirmishes. I think this is where I have a very good idea on how much energy is available, whether my opponent has the energy to erupt, play heal, play a nasty surprise, and so on and so on. Because you can just see based on the score and the energy that you invest, like you can just tell it exactly. And sometimes there are certain hints that give you an idea of how much energy your opponent has. For example, when you see someone is trying to repair a power, and they kind of are under pressure, and the power well doesn't repair right away, probably doesn't have the energy to do it. And once it's repaired, the power usually drops to 0. This is also a good indicator to get an idea how much energy your opponent has.
Yeah. Did you count on our matches now? No.
No, not right now. I'm not doing that. I'm trying my best, but with the talking, I'm a little bit too distracted to perform.
Yeah, it's all right. Oh damn, you already have 3 nomads. What will I do with that? Let's check how the tier 2 goes. Nomads can't kill my orb. Yeah. That's and we have a second chat question, which is what would you think about PvP maps that have different win conditions? Like the suggestions were capture the flag, capture a point, or have spawn camps that spawn armies. So would you consider that fun, or?
I guess alternative ways to play the game can be really fun. They would just require a reasonable amount of work, I guess. But just something that I really like to play is the battle arena one. There are various versions where there's like one where you can spawn where you get like random units and stuff and get to fight each other. But there's also a map where you can play a 2 versus 2. Both parties are like tier 4 at the start, and you kind of need to destroy a world breaker gun of the opposition, which is like way stronger than the normal card. To make it fair, but then you kind of have these tier 4 battles that you usually don't get to see in normal PvP environments. And yeah, those alternative game modes can be really fun to play, I guess. But yeah, would require a reasonable amount of work to make them, and we would probably need someone with us to does that. I guess that's kind of the part that I also dislike the most when doing the design stuff. When people bring up ideas and you think, yeah, that could be actually cool, but we don't have the ability to implement it.
I think the battle arena is already in a state where it could be released. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, these are the existing things that we have, and therefore we also chose to prioritize expanding on that. And yeah, would be pretty cool to see this fully released at some point.
Now you got your window where my bandit minefield is out.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to attack a little bit.
Let's see how it goes. Oh, you also have commanders. Yeah, if that well drops, I'm an idiot. Officially. And it will drop. It will come too late. I feel like if I wouldn't play like an idiot, I would have a chance right now, right?
I think your position wasn't that bad until you lost the power, so...
Yeah. What I noticed is that if you spawn 3 Dark Elf Assassins and you instantly activate them, they barely don't drop a well. Is this by design or is this by accident?
I would assume it's by accident. Like at certain points, breakpoints is something that we can use to make certain implications on balancing, which are especially helpful if we have, I'd say, like tougher decisions to make when there is conflict of interest based on the different game modes that are played. That the breakpoints can be very, very useful to help pushing cards in a certain environment. But yeah, I think in a lot of situations, things happen by accident, I guess. Because Dark Elf Assassins, the design is so old. I think the card, did this card ever get changed since it got released? I'm not sure about that.
I don't think so.
So at this point in time, I don't think they would consider saying, yeah, 3 activations barely destroy a power.
Yeah, but you also made the change that the primal defender got changed very, very slightly.
Oh yeah, that is exactly. Yeah, that is one of the Breakpoint changes that we did. Like that was just a very, very small buff that could help the card a little bit to fulfill a niche in the game a little bit better than it used to be. I think at a later point in time it got an even stronger buff, but that was completely unrelated to this. But yeah, that is correct. Because breakpoints can be extremely good if you do these card combinations and they do a certain amount of damage. For example, the most common one is probably you see the Gladiatrix hit the Skyfire Drake and then you erupt right away to burst down. Or with the Skyfire Drake and the Eruption, it's even more evident because you do exactly 450 damage. And if the Skyfire had 1 additional HP, this combo wouldn't work anymore. And completely change the game.
This was done by original EA BattleForge, right?
Yeah, I think this is something that was done by original EA BattleForge. I think they did a very good job at identifying how air units are supposed to be designed to function in PvP properly, because the anti-air system obviously isn't like super well designed based on the amount of options that you can choose. Because at tier 2 you don't have that many cards that interact with air based on the faction that you play. Like not every faction has super strong anti-air tools. And at tier 2 they kind of managed a reasonable system to make it interesting and also fair to play with and against.
KotH wants to have all your secrets. He has another question. I like the questions he is posing because it's really at the... Do you sometimes try in competitive matches to erupt powerwells in the first split second where they only have 100 HP?
In ranked games, yes. In tournament games, I probably wouldn't do that.
Why not in tournament games?
Because the stakes are higher compared to a normal ranked match where I just try to improve, I guess.
Let's say several Skylords voice a valid balance problem with a card. Let's take Burning Spears as an example. I personally think it is overloaded and either the slow should go or the dot should go. If we would end up with any of those changes, what would be, from the feedback, what would be the internal steps that would go through until such change would be implemented? So not just Capo, many other voice concerns. What would happen inside the designer team?
Okay, so the first step, if we see repeated concerns regarding a card, I think a good example of this was Bandit Minefields that happened to be released in a state where it used to be overpowered. We had a lot of people voicing their concerns in that regard, and Yeah, the first step that we do is that we talk about this. It's a problem, and we try to pin down the problem. Why is the card perceived as overpowered? Why is it perceived as unhealthy? And we try also to gather the information based on the feedback that we get. The more feedback we get, the better it is, because we have a better understanding of why people are disliking playing against a certain card, for example, as they think it's overtuned. And then we try to see whether it is a problem that really needs to be addressed balancing wise. For example, in the Bandit Minefield case, it certainly was, because the card was overperforming and was especially frustrating to play when it was used at brackets where players were not as experienced with predicting the placement, so they could already choose their unit compositions or dodge it very efficiently. There were only a few unit compositions that would really work against it. So that was really problematic, and something that just didn't occur during the playtesting that we did back then, because we kind of played the game for more than 10 years, and that kind of didn't occur in the matches that we played. And it was a balancing aspect that was very important to note. And then the next thing we do is we go into the playtesting phase, where we try out different variations on how can we address the certain problem. I will just refer to Bandit Minefield again, because it's just the most recent case that we had, where we really had to adjust the card and put some work into giving more reasonable counterplay to a card. And we kind of had this problem where we had like high elo players complaining that the card was already kind of over nerfed at this current point, whether others say, yeah, it's still too good. To find ways on how to balance around this, like how can we make it fairer? Can we adjust this through other buffs to the bandits faction, for example, that can compensate the nerfs at higher elo brackets that are not affecting the players that are calling card overpowered, and so on. And then we try to do these playtesting rounds, and in the end try to find a value that is fine, and then we will ideally launch it and see how it goes, and do more fine-tuning if necessary. And we always have this process of, we try to change the numbers first, in a way, ideally without any necessity of descriptions, and then we go towards reworking certain designs, just for workload reasons, because we definitely don't have the capacity to change a lot of cards by design every patch, and therefore we try to make the most out of the resources that we have.
And what's the relationship of PvE and PvP in all of that? Because you have to take PvE also in consideration. Are there changes that are PvP changes that are on hold because of PvE, and vice versa?
I think on a card basis, definitely, because we do have, for a lot of cards, there is an overlap in terms of PvP and PvE play rate and experience. And at a certain point, we always have the thought, yeah, maybe this card could be cool, this function could be cool in PvE, but it's kind of problematic in PvP, or other way around. There's something that we can't change for in PvP, because it would just disturb the PvE play patterns that are used by the majority of the player base in certain settings. But we try to then again see how these factions function on a more holistic level, and try to find solutions for the problems that are given. For example, if there's a faction that is not viable in PvE for some reason, how can we help it at the tier 1 stage? How can we help for example, I don't know, Frost to deal with RPV10, and then we just try to find solutions and see how we could give this faction power without disturbing other game modes. I think there's a lot of room for that. We can do a reasonable amount of stuff to make cards stronger in a certain game mode, and therefore improve a certain faction's performance, and also enhance the design experience that players have. I mean, it's a good example to take. For example, the best cards in PvE at lower tech stages, for example, Mine or Shadow Phoenix in combination with Embalmer's Shrine, are barely used in PvP, if not just completely like they are rather weak in PvP. Let's say it like this. And the design space is so wide that we can always find solutions for the problems.
Yeah, you're tying into my next questions, and then we take that one from Chimaka. I see here and there a suggestion every once in a while to make cards work differently in PvE and PvP. I personally think that would be very bad design, but can you say if this was ever considered?
It was not considered for various reasons. First of all, it's a workload thing, and secondly, we could also just try to focus on different cards and make sure that they are working design-wise in that respective faction and game modes. Because certain cards are just not designed for a game mode. Like Enforcers will not be great PvE cards just by the design that they have. But in PvP, they are extremely good, for example. And you would have to change so much to them to make them really viable that it's kind of unintuitive. And also, in terms of workload, you could probably just make a new card at some point.
I see. And Chimaka goes even to a more meta level. Well, first ban cards. I'm banning Gladiatrix, Life Weaving, and those ugly Rippers.
Oh, my Rippers, no.
Yeah, the Rippers have to go. And Chimaka has a very interesting question. What's from a design spec? That's very meta now. From a design spec standpoint, what's better to design cards and mechanics, or the other way around? It did make an example like it is already predefined the wells and the monuments on a map. So, what approach? When we have the maps how they are right now, but right now we are designing, if I understand Chimaka right, we're designing the cards to fit these maps and these conditions. Would there be some benefit to do it the other way around?
I mean, sure. That's what we did. Like one of the first things that we did when we did the rebalancing process, when we started it, was reworking the PvP maps. Like there were some occasions of things where they were rather unbalanced, and we wanted to open up more strategic options. For example, by looking at Uro, we opened up various cliffs, so players had more options to walk towards to, and more agency when playing factions like Frost, for example, that just couldn't contest the center in a reasonable way. And we could change the cards and allow Frost to do that, but there would be such a long and problematic design process, because then it would be too strong on smaller maps. Then we would have to adjust that, and so on and so on. And then we would have a faction that maybe works from a balancing perspective, but at some point isn't really fun to play. Maybe like there could be so many issues that occur where it was just way more effective to adjust the map at this point. I think it's also very interesting to see how matchups and factions function on different void levels during our testing processes. So that is something that we also utilize a lot. We just have the PvP maps pre-made with, for example, tier 2 starts, and see how they behave if you have a certain void level, and how these matchups can change based on that. So yeah, adjusting the maps is something that is also very important when we talk about the balancing process.
If it's all right with you, we go this round and then we make a short 5-minute break.
Yeah,
I hope that works for you.
Yeah, it works for me.
So, how would you rate the PvP balance from 1 to 10? First, the PvP balance, what Skylords inherited from EA, from 1 to 10.
That's a good question. From 1 to 10.
Finally, a question that, you misspawned. Yeah, that's not radical play.
That's an issue.
It's quite the unradical play. Yeah, he came out of it.
think it's really hard to tell to give a number here. I think overall the game was certainly fun to play. There were issues and also some pressing issues. I think the first iteration of changes was probably the most important one that we did, which because like Place Tower and Mortar Tower were two cards that were extremely overtuned, and as I said, the factions that were viable in like competitive play back then were Lost Souls and Pure Fire, and then you had like maybe a little bit of Twilight, maybe a little bit of Pure Shadow, but that was about it because you couldn't really play Frost, you couldn't really play Nature, unless you wanted to run into Phase Towers and Mortars consistently, which was really tough to play. So that was probably a very big concern, and something that definitely needed to be changed for the game to be more interesting long term. And I think in the early days we also saw that during tournaments that people were just playing the same decks over and over, simply because of this tier 1 reason, not because the decks themselves were bad. For example, Stonekin probably had the best tier 2 for a long time, and never got played just because of the reason that you don't want to have those weird tier 1 matchups where you're so at such a disadvantageous position. So for that reason, I would probably say maybe 6 or 7. I don't think the balancing overall was really bad in a sense that you had there were matchups that are hard to play, Pure Fire, Pure Frost, and so on. I know, but overall, I still felt like the performance of a player was more important in total. So I would say, I would say 7.
I can hear the mine.
Yeah, this time you dodged it.
Yeah, but I lost one of the... And I screwed up the eruption because the Wrecker spawn animation takes so long. And how would you rate the balance right now? That was also... I already had this question. But it also got pre-submitted.
Okay, that's interesting. So in the current state, I think certain balancing aspects definitely improved because more factions are playable. I also think something that's also seen when we looked at the play data, we have a much more. I would say we do have a healthier distribution in terms of play rates for sure. If you count the 2 most popular decks, we went down from the roughly 60%. Like that is an estimation. We can't tell that for sure, but that was what was counted back then. We went down to like 32 amongst the 2 most popular decks. So I think this part definitely improved, and I also think the reworks to factions like Bandits and Pure Nature, who were considered the weakest ones back then, worked out reasonably well. So I would say we improved. I'm just not sure whether I'm going for 8 or 9 here. Maybe something in between.
Sounds like you're quite satisfied already.
In terms of balancing, I would say yes. This does not mean that I'm entirely satisfied with design, because a matchup that is balanced is not necessarily always fun to play. And I think there's lots of stuff that could be made more interesting. It could be more spicy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But in terms of balancing, I think there are no matchups that are completely unplayable, for example. I think these...
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I'm not gonna comment on this. What? Same for PvE. Same questions for PvE. What did you inherit, and how you see it right now?
That's a good question. I think PvE as a whole also had like so much. I think PvE always had a lot of potential, where I think the original designers had very good ideas on how to make interesting card concepts, designs, and also faction concepts. but they were really like, I don't know.
How did you destroy that power well? I hate you so much.
Replacing the running banner with Rekka was kind of useful, I guess. But yeah, there were so many interesting and cool concepts that were left for us to make use of, and yeah, I think overall, I would actually say in PvE went from 5 to 8 overall, if you do consider all these things, because there were so many improvements to the game from various perspectives. Because yeah, that's pretty much what I said earlier. The general concepts of playing factions was just not there back then. You could not really say, okay, I play pure Frost as a faction and gain something that is really valuable over maybe playing a Splash faction. The existing cards weren't really justifying taking those paths and taking those different options, and this kind of made Splash decks extremely dominant in comparison to everything else. I think that changed.
Did you just disenchant me the second I placed the buff on?
Yeah, that was a coincidence, to be fair. I was just trying to get rid of the Ravage.
Yeah, praise the Lords, praise the Skylords. If this was that reaction time was a little too much for me. Did you ever consider adding filler cards to Amii? Because let's say we have something like let's say we have something like the Mauler. That is a good card, but it's not that hyper interesting. I feel like the Skylords Reborn team is always releasing cards that are hyper good. Did you ever consider adding filler cards?
Filler cards just for the sake of bringing out more stuff.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say filler cards in a sense like they are total trash. Yeah. Filler cards that are, let's say, magma hurlers are still good cards. But I feel like when designing cards, Skylords Reborn always wants to make cards super cool, super interesting. How about we release 3 Amii magma hurler type cards that are good, solid cards at once, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about Amii, it probably gets a little bit more difficult because the Amii obviously doesn't have like a really existing faction, and if you just throw out a couple cards into that, you won't really get how do I call it, like maybe cohesive playing experience, if that makes sense. But we had cases where we I would say made like low workload cards. I guess the Twilight Crawlers are a reasonably good example for a card that were made quickly with low workloads. I think we had like this happened so quickly because the card itself doesn't have super complex mechanics. We already had the existing unit model, so there wasn't too much work required from the artists, and also had like it had an existing artwork that didn't really require too much of an overhaul. So in that sense, it worked out pretty well. But especially if you look at the newer cards and all the things that are required to make them, I think it is better to have releases that are also meaningful to the game in some way. I think if you just look at the artworks that are also done so extremely well, it is really something that takes time to get such high quality for them. So yeah, unless we have something that is already pre-existing in the game in some way, or I don't know, maybe some AI generated result or something along that line, we probably won't be able to just throw out filler cards in that sense. And yeah, gameplay wise, I guess it would make sense to have these things added to splash factions, as you can probably have simpler design concepts and make them work simply because you have more cards to possibly combine them with.
Yeah, I think the Twilight Crawlers are a good example. It's still a very interesting card.
Yeah, we still had like an idea of why do we need this. Like there was a very similar card back then in the Fire Nature deck, which was like the Side Fiends, but they didn't really fulfill that function. And in the Splash deck, we couldn't really just say, okay, we just adjust Side Fiends based on what Fire Nature needs. So having a card within the Twilight system that also has this Twilight transformation ability really helped designing them specifically for the needs of the faction. And I think after a few tweaks, they also do a pretty good job for the deck.
Yeah, when I started with PvP, I was trying out Twilight first before I switched to Amii, and the crawlers are really one block that fits totally nicely into the faction.
I'm glad to hear that.
At this point, we make a short break, 5 minutes only, because we are human people and we have needs. How does Toggy always said it? Stand up, stretch yourself, drink water.
Water, yeah, I do remember that one exactly.
Yeah. So we go on a short break and we see we're back again in 5 minutes.
All right.
And we are back. Hopefully Radical is back already too.
Yeah, I'm back as well.
Yeah, nice. Dachi was writing break at 1 hour 41. I think we're doing nicely. Karofex is asking, is there a backlog to bring out player cards versions of PvE characters, for example, Umbabwe?
A backlog for exist. It's very likely that a backlog for existing models exists in some way, because those usually are the ones that are the easiest ones to implement in the game. As we probably do have an existing model that doesn't really need to be adjusted in a big way.
I mean, I think Umbabwe would be an interesting addition, but the question is at what power level? Lots of questions.
Yeah, we probably have to fit into the game in some way and fulfill the role. That was something that would have to be decided on. But I think in general, the legendary cards have improved a lot overall. We're just thinking about Ravenheart, for example, which is really cool after the addition that was made to it.
That was made really cool. Whoever came up with the idea to summon Raven ships and to make a Raven fleet, it's just awesome.
Yeah,
I have so much. I think I was playing for 1 or 2 months just RPE Raven ships straight.
Yeah, it's a really great strategy, and yeah, that kind of improved the quality of tier 4 legendary decks a lot.
So I ask you for Amii filler cards, but in general, what we will see in the future for Amii?
Well, we are definitely trying to make sure that we expand on the Amii faction long term. I mean, we already added 2 spell cards, the Transcendence for PvE and the Tranquility, which has mainly a PvP focus. Also, the Amii Paladins got added to the game, which also happened to introduce a unit model into the game that was pre-existing but unused. So that's also kind of cool to have them in the game now. And yeah, we are working on that to make sure it's going to be an interesting faction to play at the end. I think it's kind of hard to rush these things because we kind of want to have a faction that also works as an Amii faction and not like we have this card that works in the Shadow Nature deck and in this theme, but doesn't really add like a new play style. I think the other factions all do have kind of unique design idea. For example, if you look at Twilight and the transformations and all that, that is a deck that you want to play around. And I think also just by design, the existing tools that are given, like cards like Twilight Pestilence, that work with the Twilight units and kind of make sure that these playstyles are enhanced, are really good ideas design-wise. And yeah, that was something that was left to us by the original devs, and something we could make use of right now. And yeah, Amii doesn't really have the amount of cards required to make such a deck work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I just want to see which cards you pick next. I hope you don't go instant tier 2 then. But I would just take for the lores the Nomads and the Wrecker away.
Nomads and Wrecker. What tier 1 card do I have left? Oh, I think
there must be some left.
I think there's only Sandra, no? In terms of units, at least.
Did I take everything away? And then you can keep the Wrecker. Keep the Wrecker?
All right.
You keep the Wrecker, and then we do the Nightcrawler away?
All right.
And I don't know, can I look what you have in your deck left?
Yeah, sure.
And then we take away... You still have the Thunder. No, then we take the Thunder away too. I just want to see Wreckers all over.
Okay.
Not that you are storming my first well and I have to defend it and lose again. And Yeah, whatever. Okay. Hit ready when you are.
All right, I just replaced the cards in some way.
Yeah, you're still winning. What can I do? I was thinking the very final match. If I keep on losing, I will ask you to play with the tutorial deck.
I think in terms of strength, Master Archers are not that weak, no? In comparison to Rekka at least. So, yeah, we can.
Yeah, but
okay, if it's unupgraded, it's probably way worse. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about tutorial.
Okay, so tutorial
deck, which is
okay. All right. Yeah, that
will be the final match.
That is quite a challenge.
So ready up, and you get your next question.
All right. Just need to add one more card. Then we can.
And the next question, I already told you that this will come. When we're speaking of Amii, I have to ask this personal question. Will we see the Rev of the Amii spell someday?
I really hope we do. For everyone who isn't aware, that it was we once had a card contest where people could suggest their own card that could be implemented into the game, and I think that was a really cool contest, and people came up with super creative ideas. I was really overwhelmed with the amount of good ideas that we had on just through this. Even if we couldn't implement certain things as cards, we are still working and utilizing this in various ways to improve the game by maybe adding a certain mechanic, for example, that was proposed, or understanding a little bit better what players really wanted to have in the game, or what was missing for them personally. Wrath of the Amii was one of the contest winning cards suggested by you. And
yes,
yeah, I think the idea was that these cards that are the winning ones are of a quality that could be released through the game in some form. So I guess there is a reasonable chance that this will happen, and I really hope it does at some point. Because I think that was a very good concept. Really fits with the way Amii wants to play the game in PvP specifically, and I really hope we can fulfill this wish at some point.
Yeah, I really hope this will happen someday. Are there any cards that you, as a team, didn't touch yet that you would want to touch?
That's a good question. I mean, a card specifically there probably are interesting design concepts that we want to bring into the game, and some things that we probably also are planning to do. I guess I don't want to leak the upcoming stuff, and because if I say I want to change this card, then and we didn't do it yet, then might happen at some point. So that would be quite a leak, I guess.
Yeah, I'm teasing you.
So the answer is yes, they exist.
They exist. That sounds good. How many Rekkas can you summon?
They're cheap.
God damn it.
Just need to make sure that your Sunray doesn't reach my way.
Yeah. Just body block me and I will keep running. And you're doing an attack on the side. Yeah, the mine is still there. I'm not going into that. From a very zoomed out perspective now, what is the roadmap? What is up in the next patch cycles? I'm not asking about specific cards. You did a lot of Frost rework. You did a lot of PvP rework. Is there a global scheme where everything will go?
Yeah, I mean, there is an existing plan of what we want to do, and I think there are, I guess, coming up with an idea is something that always happens faster than implementing that certain idea into the game. So there definitely is a certain backlog with that in terms of what we want to do in the future, and we have a clear idea of that. But yeah, I'm not going to tell anything for now until it happens, because we always have to see what are technical issues that could occur. And overall, I would say what we are trying to do in the future, which is something that might change in terms of how we approach certain things earlier on, is that instead of just trying to focus the idea when it comes down to PvP at least, of fine-tuning things for balancing stuff and so on, that we try to make improvements for the game's design. So in a sense that we try to make factions more fun to play and matchups more fun to play, and try to implement certain things into the game that will help us at achieving this goal. So there's maybe more faction variety, more strategic options, and such things.
Is my impression right that implementation is lagging behind design right now?
I don't think it's implementation itself. It's just the patch process as a whole. We can only...
Well, I would consider that part of implementation. You guys as a designer say we want card X, it should look nice, it should work like that, and from there on implementation starts, right?
Yeah, exactly. But there's also there are other things that also need to happen. For example, if we want to release a new card, we would have to take a look at artworks. Whenever a card changes from a design perspective, it is very likely that we have to change the descriptions of that card, which also is something that isn't done super quickly all the time, and something we have struggled with in the past. It has certainly improved by now, but at some point that was kind of an issue. And there are just so many small things that always need to happen, which kind of make it hard to bring out all the content at such a fast pace.
What's the most fun part about your job?
The most fun part, the thing that I enjoy the most, and I think that's something I kind of said earlier, at least some parts of it, is playtesting is something that I really enjoy in a sense where we have the new concept, and then you get to play it and see, okay, how does this perform? Does this work? Or what are the issues? And there's just so much new stuff that you get to learn about the game during this process that makes it really, really fun and enjoyable for me. And also probably part of the reason why I really did invest a lot of time into that specifically.
And the well goes still down. Any specific input you gave that you're especially proud of?
I guess it's not like there's like one specific change, but I think something that we succeeded at is making the pure nature rework work in the end, because this is something that was kind of criticized at various angles early on, because we not only buffed various unused cards but also nerfed like cards like Deep One, Shrine of War, and Energy Parasite, at least for the PvP perspective. I mean, Shrine of Memory, sorry, Shrine of War. Shrine of Memory is like now very strong in PvE, especially RPVE situations, and yeah, not that good in PvP anymore. And yeah, in the end, this is something that really, really worked out. If we look at the play rates and stuff, Prenature is certainly very popular. One of the most popular decks in the game by now, and still in the last community update feedback that we had that survey that we made, and people were also giving an impression on whether they are considering a faction balanced or kind of overpowered, underpowered, and so on. Prenature was not labeled as something that was overpowered or something, so it's not like we just overtuned the faction so everyone plays it right now. But the play rate increased at such a rate that gives us the feedback that the deck is just much more enjoyable to play, and that is also something that lots of players that are maining it said to us, and that is something we are reasonably proud of.
Yeah, the pure nature thing, I as my function of giving feedback, I was seeing. You could almost cry how much work was put into some aspects of the pure nature rework that didn't make the cut because of technical difficulties. It's really sad.
Yeah, at some points, some things just didn't work. That's true.
Yeah. For those who don't know, how many iterations of the, what is the card named? Let's check quick. Before healing goes, Growth Spirit. How many iterations of the Growth Spirit were there?
Growth Spirit. Oh, oh no! Don't. Oh no! Don't start with.
Yeah.
Too many, and it didn't work out.
Too many. Yeah. So much work put into this and still nothing. But that's how it is.
The card by design is really hard to make. Like, it's really hard to make such units work in a T4 environment. And I mean, Winter Witch is probably the one supporter that actually does make the card for being viable and useful in PvE encounters. But it's also like the shield is so extremely strong. There's like a lot of stuff that needs to be put into the supportive function to make it really useful. And it's
it is what it is,
and it's still not super liked, right? There's still people that saying, yeah, it needs to be swift. It needs to not swift, but fast enough to match the extra unit speed and so on.
I think it was Wind Hunter, or was it you? One of the designers was answering this for Winter Witch. Winter Witch is so strong, so incredibly strong. I see the reason why she is a little slower.
Yeah, I think that is something Wind Hunter said, but it's something that I would also agree with.
Yeah, if you put two Winter Witch shields on top of each other. So, Chimaka, today, lots of cool questions from him. What would you do at the point where you say, okay, our cards are in a good spot and we won't change too much anymore?
I mean, I guess there's always the idea of bringing out new content. So I don't think we will reach that state anytime soon. There's always stuff that we could do. But yeah, expanding on content is something that we can always make sure. You can always try to make sure that we have new strategies that players can use to engage with the game in various ways. So
it's funny. It seems like Chimaka anticipated your answer, and he has a second part to this question.
Okay.
What would be so including? Because you gave the answer, we would bring, basically we said we bring out new content, new cards then. And what would happen if you say the cards are all balanced and we have enough cards we won't add anymore?
Okay, so that's a tough one. So we're saying we have enough cards, assuming there is a world where this is the case. We have enough cards, we have existing factions. I guess I would try to I'm not sure. I'll probably move on to other working departments, right? I mean, I'm also trying to assist the map team, so there's new content from that angle.
Yeah. Will we see at this point RadicalX the event manager then?
The event manager. I mean, I did host tournaments in the past, and I'm not. I think those were very great experiences for me, and I guess I could maybe host an event at some point in time again. I would consider it.
So we are bending the mine so my Sundara can get to work.
Oh, no, it's getting really tough. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we're taking the moon away.
Damn.
I don't want no shady teleports in my game. And the Sky's Fiends.
Okay.
You can keep the commandos for now. Then we go away next round.
I'm just going through the tier 2 cards that I can take.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. I don't think you did ban this one yet. Aura of Corruption.
So I have 2 more.
Wasn't banned, was it?
No.
Okay. So I can still take this one.
That's at least a somewhat defensive card.
Yeah,
I see you will now put the aura on top of my wells and just spam some stupid spells that the well drops. No, it doesn't do damage to wells, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I was considering something that can attack air because I'm running out of options. Commandos is probably my last unit that can do it. So adding the aura might help.
But I was thinking you can keep the commandos for one more round.
All right.
We have 2 more pre-submitted questions. One was, and also Dachi wrote this the same on the chat. Will we see a striker buff?
No.
No, because?
Because strikers are in the current state somewhat hard to balance. They can technically be oppressive in a very few situations, and these are very limited because it's a very expensive card. So considering it's an S unit with 90 energy, it's a melee S unit, they will be completely bad into Frost and Nature. And with the way Shadow works with certain S counters like the Dread Chargers and especially Nessie Surprise, they have a reasonable amount of counterplay, but it's limited. But the first deck strikers would be viable at is like pure fire, as fire versus fire, and that is kind of something that is weakening a certain faction's performance. Because if a card is only good in a mirror match, you have to slot this card for this mirror match in particular, and then you kind of have less cards available to play the other matchups. So buffing strikers would be technically nerfing fire splashes, like buffing strikers to state where they are functioning on a global scale. And we would have to rework them, and that is a lot of workload again.
And the other pre-submitted question was Pure Fire nerf when? By Tricks.
Oh yeah, Pure Fire nerf when? The most favorite question. Do you want me to answer this seriously or in a form of a meme?
Of course. Okay. No, of course. I also feel like, at least on my level, which I displayed today is pretty low, that it is a tad too strong.
I could totally go with that, and I would actually agree with that, and this also is in line with the feedback that we got. As I said, I mentioned the survey, and yeah, Pure Fire was mentioned. It was kind of rated as slightly overpowered in that survey. Furthermore, it is the most played faction in the game, so it's definitely fairly present, and people are also saying, yeah, it's really strong, and it's not unreasonable to say that we probably could nerf it at some parts of the game. There are aspects that are maybe not super healthy. Like, the issue with Pure Fire is that the faction has probably the least amount of viable cards that you could play, but these cards in particular are extremely powerful. But that also makes certain patterns problematic depending on the matchup that you're playing. Because there is only Pure Fire, for example, very M-reliant faction, and if you have a very strong counter that Pure Fire can't deal with, the faction is kind of doomed. But on the other hand, if you don't have that particular counter, Pure Fire probably dominates. And yeah, these are kind of the patterns that we want to get rid of. And and we also tried this step by step. Overall, I think the road for Pure Fire is to, whenever we do have the capacity to do so, add more cards and options, or like card options in terms of maybe new cards, but also reworks. So the deck can be like played in different ways, and then also we do not have to rely on these super strong points. Like for example, the Juggernaut winning tier 3 matches on his own, when there would be more options Pure Fire could rely on, for example. This could really help making these options more interesting gameplay-wise and also healthier overall. But yeah, Pure Fire really strong right now. Really, really good faction in this current state.
It looks like we are through. We made it to the end of our list. Is there anything you wanted? Oh no. No. I almost skipped the last general chapter. Ooh, that was close. Now we come back to the question everyone gets. The game has developed somewhat. What, in your opinion, is the best addition to the game so far?
Best edition. That's also a good question. I need to think about this for a second.
You may. You may think, and you may not destroy my well. Hey, you really got that damn tower up.
I guess
So, best addition to the game so far.
I think there were so many things that I really enjoyed, like so many cool things.
It almost looked like you had to make a little effort to destroy me this time.
Yeah, that was quite a tough one. Hard pool is getting smaller and smaller. There's so many things that I really enjoyed using. Like I really enjoyed reforging. I really enjoyed the new achievement system with the cosmetics and stuff. That is something. It kind of baffles me that it didn't exist in the game originally.
Agreed.
When it comes down to PvP, I think something that I really enjoyed is the addition of the happy hour, of course, especially when we had like matchmaking issues. That is something that, while it didn't solve all the problems that we have, it definitely helped getting players together at a certain time and also rewarding them appropriately. Because like during the 8 days, PvP had very small rewards. And there also was the token system, which also meant that these rewards were kind of handed out in a different way compared to now, which made kind of in comparison to the PvE income even weaker. So that definitely helped out. In terms of card changes, I think something that I really enjoyed and I had fun playing with was the Pure Frost rework for PvE specifically, because it really kind of made.
Yeah, that was great. That was I think a point in the development of the project where the Skylords team really showed off what cool things can be achieved.
Yeah, I think so too, and that is also something that I kind of missed previously from PvE, which I mentioned earlier, that you had like all these different factions, and it sometimes never felt like they were, like a lot of them weren't worth playing outside of being pretty cool for being different. Yeah, Frost was kind of the first faction that kind of gave you the feeling, right now you can use this, and it has a unique style. It really is fun to play, and also has its own strengths. That was really cool to see this being finished in the game. Yeah, and in terms of PvP, I guess the nerfs of Mortar, Phase Tower, and Curse were early on were a big relief for me, because those things were just so frustrating. And it was just something that was people were really quickly agreeing on, that these cards were broken. It was just about how do we nerf them appropriately.
So let's ban. Now that you found the Bandit Tower, you don't need those commandos anymore, because Bandit Tower can attack air.
I see.
And what else? It's hard to come up with cards that really helped you that much. Let me show me. Let's request the deck again. Yeah, the Stalker, of course. We got a fire bomb. The Stalker, the Stalker, and the Disenchant.
Oh, the Disenchant, that's a tough one.
Yes. So I can finally set up my Wind Hunter fully buffed.
Yeah.
And finally, at least last match, at least I destroyed a well. It was the moment where you kicked wells too, but at least I was able to destroy a well. Anything you personally, not as a team, but anything that personally that got changed that you would have done differently? Or would like to change back?
I'm not sure. I guess you can always make an argument for certain changes that were probably not as good as they could have been, and yeah, I guess it's really hard to always make everyone happy, even though we try our best. I don't think there is I don't see a necessity to revert a certain change that was made to the game from my personal perspective, obviously. Because for me, the part of the changes also is that it kind of keeps the game kind of fresh and interesting. Always lets you figure out new strategies and stuff. So I'm kind of a fan of shifting meta, I would say. And yeah, I'm not sure if there's like one change that I disliked in such a way that I would have to say, yeah, that really had to be reverted or something.
All right. I mean, this question is especially interesting for the ones who are not making the design questions.
Yeah, I guess so, for sure. And it's always very interesting to see who said like, okay, so this card should have been like kept in a stronger state. For example, there's lots of debate around Batario, for example, that got nerfed in previous times. Or maybe Decomposer, for example, that got removed from PvE speedrunning. And yeah, that's...
Well, nobody of the team said Decomposer yet.
Yeah, I guess maybe not of the team, but there were definitely players who were not super happy with what happened.
Of course. So here comes the question that was originally designed only for Majora, but he said he liked questions so much I should ask this one everyone. It is the question that we are entering Dreamland, and in Dreamland, 3 new people join the team, and you can decide which skill sets they should have. What would be the 3 people that the project would profit the most?
I guess there are 2 options. It's like either doing marketing, like a lot of marketing. Then the other option is like cloning Hana multiple times. That is a project that we're working on. Still not finished yet, but that would really help improving the game a lot. Like especially like during times, like she and Lara, she did like they just did so much to help the game growing, and yeah, that is probably, if I had like the Dreamlands, I would probably do that.
Oh no, the Firestalker is an L counter.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Yes, I have no other chance than to go tier 2 as well. So it would be 1 for marketing, which is not very surprising.
Yeah.
One Hana, and what else?
What else?
What does the game need?
I mean, there's always things the game probably could benefit from. But I'm just trying to think about what would be the most efficient way to bring it forward. I mean, there are already so many valuable volunteers that are helping out to make this better, like every day, every patch. Getting a 3rd one out, 3rd position. I mean, yeah, I guess in a sense this is pretty much the same as marketing in some way, but content creation in a big way would be super helpful to get more people to reach more people out there, and show them how great the game is, and that they maybe it may be worth it to just try it out. So maybe that would be something that really helps in a sense.
You could also choose 2 marketing people if you think that is.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's do it that way, because it's so important. It's so important that we just reach out more players.
2 marketing persons. 2 marketing person and a Hana.
Yeah. Let's call it that way. I'm fine with that.
And what about realistic land? What would be the smartest steps for the project? Next steps?
Next steps would be like optimizing our workflow, so that we are less reliant on, especially like, especially if the project has been reliant on Lada and Hana at many departments. And I think that is something we need to work on to optimize our workflow overall. That is realistically our current goal, to progress more smoothly with all the content creation and the patches that we want to launch. And yeah, we are pretty grateful for everyone who is kind of willing to help us out in any department. Like it's always,
I think that
always helpful to get support.
We are hammering this message home as much as we can, everybody, to be honest. And I think there are still bottlenecks. Maybe it isn't like a position that, maybe it isn't the most famous positions of all. I'm just spawning air units now left and right. That's my solution for this.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for you right now.
Yeah, it is. I just try to secure everything now before you come to any ideas. But those spearmen are pretty strong. I don't have them in my deck.
Yeah, actually, one of the units, the spearmen, are one of the units that I already kept in the original deck. So one of the few ones left.
You should bring your unit into safety before it's too late.
Yeah, I think so. I wish I had 2 eruptions now.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. You saw it in time. That really hurts.
It's still looking pretty good for you this time.
Agreed. So the next smartest steps would be recruiting some people.
Recruiting people, optimizing our workflow overall. Yeah. I guess these are the next steps that we have.
Yeah, at this point we are really finished. And of course, here comes the question: anything you want to talk about?
I guess we covered anything that I wanted to talk about today. I guess, at least the most important part. So, yeah, I would be fine with finishing it.
You did really build an air tower.
I did.
That's totally not crazy.
I'm out of options.
Yes, you are. And I made the same mistake again. That's how I roll. Will I win this one?
I think you do.
Could I win it in a slower way?
I guess you could play Stonekin and just spam cannon towers slowly forward. That would be the slowest way to victory.
It's kind of frustrating. I think there was a time I was playing better, but this would be a very nice question. That would be interesting, at least for me. I feel like I'm sometimes literally deprogressing in skill. Is this only me, or is this a radical problem too? Sometimes.
I guess there's always times where I don't perform as well as I would have loved to. But yeah, I mean, this can happen sometimes, especially when I'm kind of inactive for a while. But I mean, it seems like overall, you seem to improve, considering that your rank is steadily increasing a little bit over time, at least from what I've.
Yeah, but that was at least the question I ask. It's not like I really cheated the system, but when I lost, of course, I didn't to make some smart choices. Who are you playing against? As good as possible.
Okay, I see.
So it's like when KotH is turning up, and I have him on my friend list, not only because he is a good player. It's better not to queue.
Yeah, I mean that is fair enough. I mean the system, if it puts you against the player that is multiple ranks above you, I think it's reasonable to also say, okay, I don't want to have such matches happen at all. I guess such things are only problematic if you're dodging players that are very close to your skill level.
So let's just use my energy and kill you off. Is that a good offer?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I can survive for 17 minutes with my fire bombs here.
Did you already play some?
I just started.
Maybe I can get in range. But I think Rogan Kale can take it. Rogan Kale did take it.
Oh, he didn't.
And now he's dead. Well, that's that.
That's that.
You have to show me that deck again. I will post a screenshot of that. In what crappy deck you needed to lose against me.
All right, GG.
Finally. But the timing is perfect because we are done. So to wrap things up, this was the 4th installation of this series. I hope you guys found it interesting. Oh, can you? That's much better. Can you send me the deck code? Deck code would be better.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later on. Sure.
Yes. I hope you found it interesting. My next guest will be developer Ult, also in-game known as Ult Dragon, who will join me 14 days from now on the 21st of October. Special thanks to you, Radical, for taking the time. It was really fun talking to you. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was really fun for me as well. So really cool to have such a series around.
And as a tradition, you have the honor of signing us out.
All right. So thank you everyone for watching, and see you in the Forge, fellow Skylords.